I've turned a lot of people on to Ron Paul over the years because I've been outspoken about my support, and they look at me and say, hey, he's an okay fellow. All right, let's check it out. But there's always these charges of racism that, kind of fester in the background. Are they real? Of course, there was a time, I think in the 90s, where someone had taken over Ron Paul's newsletter and had written under his name, but it wasn't him that was writing. That's already been cleared up. And of course, if you understand the term racism is the belief in the inherent genetic superiority of one race over another, how many people are really racist as opposed to obnoxious, prejudicial, redneck yahoos, for lack of a better way to say it? And someone will say, well, he was not in favor of the Civil Rights Act. Well, the point was individual liberty. He didn't believe in the government telling us who we could associate with. And I would rather know who the racist scum are, if they really are there, so I can point them out. Instead, it festers like a wound that never heals underneath the surface. And so if you force this out via federal law, and the states can handle this much better, you actually cause the deepening hatred to continue, which is a lot of what happened after the so-called Civil War between the states. The racial issues were actually much more, let's say, overt in the South, and things were healed much more weirdly enough. Where the North, it festered underneath the surface, and where you can go in probably even today into neighborhoods where racism is overt among groups. And, in a lot of ways, the South has surpassed the North in racial relations.
Yeah. So what was his take? His take was, I'd rather know if somebody doesn't want to serve whites or blacks or Asians, I want them to be able to say, hey, this is my business, and I'm not going to honor anything the government says. So you know where they are. Like, hey, that's Mike's shop. He hates everybody who's not from Korea. So.
Right. And the point is, you don't endorse the behavior by saying that these people should be free to be ignorant. Let me say a-holes, right? Yahoos. I said that was a nicer way to say it. It doesn't endorse the behavior of racism or even prejudice, but of course the freedom of association is a fundamental freedom. And it doesn't endorse it. Doesn't mean you're. And again, there's not a racist bone in Ron Paul's body simply because he's not a collectivist. Racism needs collectivism. You need to designate people as a group as opposed to an individual. Do you acknowledge them and judge them based on the content of their character, who, by the way, I think Martin Luther King recognized that as a superior way to go about, life and looking at people, not because of the superficial skin tone pigmentation differences. Ron Paul is not a collectivist. He's all about individual liberty and acknowledges that we do not get our rights. I do not get my right by virtue of my group orientation designation. Whether you're black, white, red, yellow, gay, straight, whatever, that doesn't give you your rights. Your rights are inherent in you because of your birth.
Yeah, there's people who can make an historical argument that the quality of life and innovation and education within what we call black communities actually diminished after forced integration, that there was an entire way of life that was frankly superior in terms of the literature and the poetry and the work and the industry that was being produced within black communities that, weren't forced to bus or mingle or anything like this. And it's a strange argument. It goes against sort of liberal theology, which is we all have to live together. But of course, people don't all live together. That kind of liberalism just isn't true. Birds of a feather kind of do flock together, and whether that means you're rich so you all live together, then you do.
It's culture, isn't it? Culturalism.
Yeah, like Beverly Hills, it doesn't matter what your skin color is. You just have to have a couple $1 million in your bank account, and if you're really poor, you're really poor, and you live where the poor people live. But white and black tend to do have affinity, sort of, superficially among themselves, and I don't know what to do about any of that. It kind of doesn't bother me. I kind of don't care. I figure there are cultures within cultures within cultures, and you get to know them. My question about the Ron Paul thing is, go find the piece of legislation where he made life really, really hard because he felt somebody was too Indian or too American Indian or too Polish. Just find it and, email it to me and say, oh, here's where he really showed his true. You probably won't find anything.
No. I mean, this guy was taking care of the poor in his OBGYN practice, delivering babies for free for people that couldn't afford it, whether they were white, black, yellow, or what. It doesn't matter. The point is you recognize, as I would say, soul equals soul, and that if we believe that we are our bodies rather than inhabit them, of course, we're going to over-identify with the physical shell in which we inhabit. If we have a different perspective, of course, even in the Judeo-Christian heritage, much less New Age visions, we talk about the soul. Some people talk about it in terms of possession. Oh, I have a soul. Some would say, wait, how can I possess myself?
Right.
I am soul, and I have a body. Isn't that interesting? But it causes a pause there to say, wait, who am I? And that's the big question, right? Who am I? And then what am I here for, right? What is my mission? What is my purpose? And living the purpose-driven life changes your life altogether versus living the victim-driven life, which is part of the racism issue. It doesn't mean there hasn't been horrible treatment of races that are other than the majority race in any culture. But there's a point that you leap out of it, the identity, and recognize that you exist as an individual independent of any group identity, even skin color.
Well, you just went very deep, Brother Bell.